Rev up your engines! Today, I'm going to talk and show you when you decide how far you want to go fixing a car, depending on what you're planning on using the car for, and what kind of shape it's in, what's really left in it. Now, this is an 01 Camry. It's got like 180,000 miles. Superficially, it looks to be in really good shape. It's shiny and everything, but let's look closely. Looks decent, but if you look closely, well, the door handle's broken and he just put a ring to open it, but it does work. He's torn apart all the door stuff and gotten a used switch so the windows and the locks work. He doesn't really care what it looks like. And the interior is still in decent shape. They're cloth seats, they're comfortable. Everything still pretty much works, radio and everything in it, but it is old. Look what happens when I push on the suspension system. It just keeps bouncing. Bounces like mad in the back, and also bounces like mad in the front. Just total slop. Now, in a perfect world, that means that it needs all new struts. But if you want to put front and rear struts on this thing, you're going to spend a lot of money if you put decent stuff on. The mechanic's going to be well over $800 to put decent struts on all four wheels. So in the case of this vehicle, you got to decide how much money you want to put in it and how are you driving it. If you're driving this in town, in the city, I've had people drive them decades that way. They're not jumping in this car in Houston, Texas and driving to LA. No, that would be a mistake. It's not safe on the highway speeds, it's bouncing, you're losing control, but for a knock-around city car, it's perfectly fine. And if you're thinking like some people will and just bolt the cheaper quick struts on, well, one, they're not all that much cheaper, and two, they don't last as long. So you're planning on keeping this thing for another decade or something? Don't put those cheap quick struts on, because within a year or two, they'll wear out, and they never ride all that right anyway. So my advice on this thing is either live with it bouncing around or put in quality struts. Don't just put cheap ones and think they're gonna last, because they won't. And now we'll check under the hood to see what other things are wrong. As you can see, it's leaking oil like mad from the valve cover gasket, but this is a V6 engine. There's 3 cylinders here, and then there's 3 under here. To change the back cylinders, we're talking about taking the intake over. That's a big job. It's only pouring out of the front ones. We'll just change the front ones and see what happens. And he noticed he said it had a clunk when he went in reverse and drive. Again, that's a relatively simple thing. This dog bone mount here, you can see the rubber's all rotten, and so it clunks back and forth when you move the car from park to drive. Now that's no big deal, so we're going to change that. But he also said it felt kind of squirrely, so we're going to jack up the front end and check some more of the suspension. Now we know the struts are worn out, but we're going to check out for other weird things like ball joints, tie rods. And now we can check for excessive play. Nothing outrageous, just a little bit there. That's normal wear and tear. Realize this thing does have 180-something thousand miles on it. Things are going to be warm, but that's not anything excessive that's going to be dangerous. Now we'll check this side. Like I said, it's got a little bit of play, but nothing outrageous. The inner tie rods are a little bit worn, but I see that all the time on these Camrys. The inner tie rod has a sleeve that's got a plastic piece in it. Plastic wears a little, and you get a little bit of play, but the metal's still there, so it's not dangerous. And rather than spend a ton of money doing that, this thing's safe enough the way it is. So we're going to change this dog bone mount. Now they're on pretty tight, so we're going to use a long extension bar and a socket to break it loose. There's one, there's another one here. Then we can twirl them off my hand and get this one out of the way. And since there's no real tension on this one it's sitting, you just slide it right out. And as you can see, it's broken. That comes right out of it. Here's the new one. Then it just slips in. Then we bolt the top end in because it's easier. Then comes the fun of aligning the bottom one. I got a pry bar because you often have to move the motor a little. So we push it a little, then we can line this hole up and bolt it up. Then once you start it, you can get a socket. Because you can't do this with your fingers, it's pretty tight. Now it's starting to come out the other side. We're almost done. We want them nice and tight. No more broken dog bone mount. That's going to help a lot of the problems because that holds the whole engine and transmission and it'll make it much more stable. So we'll take off this stupid cover, annoying plastic nonsense, but that's how they make cars these days with a bunch of crap on them. Then we'll remove the spark plug coils, the ignition coils, they're in the way. That's number 2. Get it out of the way. And number 3. And get the radiator hose out of the way because it's blocking stuff. Then we take all the valve cover bolts off, loosen them all and pull them out. There's a whole bunch of them. Get a hammer and tap it. Now you see the whole thing will come off. Off it comes. And as you can see, the cover's leaking all over. This car hasn't had the engine oil changed long enough. It should have been changed more. That's why there's all this crud inside. They're going to wipe all the residual oil that's off on the top of the head so it'll seal better. As you can see here, the spark plug seals are bad too, so we get a hammer and we pop the old seals out and put new seals in because they're all shot too. They'll just hammer back in. You pry out the old gasket, it's going to be just as hard to get out because it's all baked on from all these years. But eventually you'll find a hole, you can get it open. You can see how brittle it is. It just comes off in pieces. It's supposed to be flexible. Then in goes the new valve cover gasket. It's custom made to fit in everything perfectly. First you just kind of generally feel it along, pushing it into the little holes to make sure it's right because there is a left and right. They're different sizes. Then you got to push them in super tight so they snap into the hole and stay in place. This particular one is a silicone based gasket, which is best. They last the longest. And as you can see here, it's all neatly fit. You push your finger the whole way around. It's pushed into the hole tightly. There's no sealer or gasket maker needed, just the silicone gasket. Then you push it snugly on and put all the bolts in. Don't forget any of them, there's a whole bunch of them. And then first make them all snug. Start in the middle and work your way out. Start in the middle and you work your way around to get them snug. Then we'll do this one, then we'll do one over here. It's a crisscross pattern. Then once you have them snug, then get your ratchet and make them all tight. Again, from the middle working out. We'll start here, then we'll go up here, then we'll go down here, then we'll go over here. Finally, the last one over here. Then we put everything else on. Get those pliers and slide the clamp back on. Then we'll put the ignition coils back on. That one goes there, and this one goes here. And tighten the ignition coils. Make sure they're on tight. And the radiator hose back in its place. Wiggle it a little. And get that clamp on nice and tight. And add some coolant, because I noticed nothing came out when I took it off. So it's low on coolant a little. Then put the stupid beauty cover on. Doesn't serve any purpose, but what the heck, it had it on. Then we'll close the hood, take it for a spin. Then we use the funky little ring that he has to open the door. And it doesn't drive all that bad, other than it rides like one of those vans in a Porky Pig cartoon where every time you hit a bump, the whole thing just goes up and down. I mean, if you don't mind that, you can drive this car for many years to come. So if you don't mind riding around in a post-apocalypse car that doesn't even have a rear view mirror anymore, hey, this thing might last for many years to come, as long as you're not a fanatic. So now you know the truth about this old 2001 Camry. What you should do with an old car and what you shouldn't. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Now everyone laughs at those segues that people ride around. It turns out the second guy who bought the company from the first guy ended up driving over a cliff in Scotland, I believe, and killed himself on one. But now Segway's going to have a motorcycle that goes 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds, and it's a top speed of 125 miles. A long cry from the Segway that you people rode around and have tours of city and that don't go all that fast. Now you wonder how they can make something like that from their simple little technology. Well, that's because a Chinese company now owns them. It's called Ninebot. And they make all kinds of electric stuff in China. Now, they're also working on other things. They have a thing called the Segway S-Pod, which is a chair that you sit in. Yes, a chair, but a chair that can go 24.8 miles an hour. So if you want to find out what it's like to be in a chair, and if something happens, be thrown out of a chair at 24.8 miles an hour, it's actually quite fast. It might not sound like much, but one time, the police came over here, and I did a little video on the importance of seat belts. And they had the sled thing. And that thing was going like 4 miles an hour. You slid down and then it stopped. And when it stopped, That 4 miles an hour, man, it really jolted you when you went forwards. 25 miles an hour almost is extremely fast to be going in a chair that you might fly out of. But they actually have one. It's called the Segway S-Pod. But on the positive side, they say that this chair will go 45 miles between charges. So it's halfway to what the Mini Cooper, that is the electrified version, can go. So it can go a reasonable distance. If you don't mind, I guess you'd have to stay on the sidewalk, right? It's a chair. It's not a car, so... I actually saw them in the United States and see people in my neighborhood riding around in chairs. I mean, I wouldn't put it behind modern people. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.